The Eco Manager. This presentation will address the assertion that the environmental manager's role is to protect the health of ecosystems above all else. To do this, I will use examples of the Stockton Bight coastal erosion problem, the Wanganui River case, and a discussion on the spectrum of ecocentrism and anthropocentrism. Firstly, the environmental manager's job involves many skills and understandings of diverse topics. This includes scientific literacy, policy and regulation, ecological and environmental literacy, understanding the social context, systems thinking, conflict resolution, and advocacy. As well as this, there are significant considerations resulting from the global scale of issues: climate change, justice and sustainability, and the intersection of human rights and environmentalism in the vast arena of management worldwide. In the real world, environmental managers work within organizations and professional capacities to deliver on visions that are on a spectrum of ecocentrism to anthropocentrism. Where a project or vision sits on this spectrum can dramatically affect the outcomes, the cooperation of stakeholders, the funding available, and the challenges or opportunities for managers. For example, the Stockton coastal erosion issue in Newcastle, New South Wales is an environmental management problem, but with an anthropocentric focus: how to maintain the beach facility for people's use. The problem most affects people in the Stockton suburb, but in fact has wide-reaching impacts on the ecosystem itself. The solutions proposed, such as the mitigation walls and sand nourishment, will benefit first and foremost the human communities. However, this is overlooking the responsibility to care for the ecosystems themselves in the wider area. Ecocentrism is the valuing of nature in its own right, rather than for its value to humans, and placing nature and its health in the center of the worldview and management. This places human beings in a caretaking role, with the obligation to reduce humanity's negative impact on the environment to zero if possible. Within this, there are ethical assumptions of sentience, the vulnerability of nature, and nature's inability to advocate for itself. Beyond biocentrism, it assumes that nature has rights, and that rivers, mountains, oceans, and all of life has rights. One good example of very egocentric environmental management is the decision to acknowledge the Wanganui River as having the same legal rights as a human being. This took place in New Zealand after 140 years of activism by the Wanganui Maori tribal group. In the view of the Wanganui people, the river is an ancestor, an indivisible whole, and should not be treated as an object of ownership or management. This spectrum of worldviews between poles of extremity adds an extra dimension of complexity and challenge for managers when dealing with the big picture questions. One of those challenges is advocating for the essential truth that it is in humanity's best interest to protect the health of ecosystems. This nullifies the argument that anthropocentrism and ecocentrism are mutually exclusive. In fact, we are nature, and we depend on it so completely that we forget it, and this fact is hardly acknowledged universally. We can see the social complexity of advocating for ecosystem health in the form of these differing values and priorities. What some people call environmental management may simply be pest control with little ecocentrism. What some people call environmental management may be advocacy for marginalized groups such as Indigenous custodians, which looks anthropocentric, but is in fact moving towards ecocentrism because of the positive outcomes of Indigenous empowerment. Communication and relationship building are essential to environmental management. Delivering positive outcomes for the environment means negotiating this diversity of values and worldviews in a way that can work with conflict and facilitate collaboration. Additionally, understanding temporal and spatial factors in ecosystems is essential to effective management. This means having access to data and knowledge about biome sequences, the different stages of evolution of ecosystems, and the vastly different nature of systems in one part of the world compared to another. This begs the question, which ecosystem is to be protected? As at first glance, a weedy zone with little native species may not seem important, but left alone, it will support a multitude of fauna species. The environmental manager must be able to work within these potentially conflated complexities of social and environmental factors. This highlights the role of the manager as an interdisciplinary bridge, a change agent and professional negotiator and leader, while balancing the human and cross-cultural relationships with the primacy of ecosystem health and knowledge. If we think about management as an adaptive process, one in which responds to changing states within systems with various thresholds of change and ideals of resilience, we can see that the role of the environmental manager is to be a systems thinker, a professional which can consider the wide range of complexities. Critically, the environmental manager must include themselves within the systems they seek to manage. Without this, there can be no role modeling or participation in the relationships with integrity or sustainability. In conclusion, in the real world, there are many different emphases of environmental management. They might be entirely focused on management for gain or entirely on conservation. Protecting the health of ecosystems is protecting the health of our own social systems. And the environmental managers have a powerful opportunity and responsibility to inspire change despite the challenges.